Hello. Welcome to Milking the Franchise.
Hang on a sec, Tanner. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, you're right. Share my screen. Whoops. Oh, that's good. Should we leave this in?
Leave this in.
Okay. Well, welcome to Milking the Franchise. I don't know what I'm doing. My name's Tanner, and I am not tech savvy.
Oh, I would have been even worse than you. That's why we leave this stuff to you, Tanner. We wouldn't have gotten it right one single time.
I almost forgot to bring in the recorder, our producer Craig, who's just a bot on Discord. Just so you guys know, if we ever shout out Craig, it's a bot on Discord. And then I screwed that up too. All right. Well, welcome, Chris.
What a way to start the show. Welcome, Tanner. It's great to be here.
Leave it in. We don't cut anything out here, for better or for worse.
It's all gold, baby. It's all gold.
Absolutely. Speaking of gold, today we watched Highlander: The Source.
Oh yeah.
A golden turd. So this is the franchise or the podcast where we watch every movie in a franchise. We recap them and we talk about the IP that goes along with it and how it's generally milked for all it's worth. And
along those lines, here we are talking about the fifth movie in the Highlander franchise. So certainly, some good IP, but milk for all it's worth. I don't know that there's five movies here. Yeah.
A stone cold classic, and then 4 shitty sequels. 2 of which we'll get into it later, but it's really gone downhill. That's all I'll say for now.
I think I would still recommend this movie franchise to someone if they owned a sword that they bought at the mall. I think these movies have something for those type of people.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, we'll find out if you can use that sword at the Sword Academy. What was that thing called?
Oh gosh, yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay, we'll save that for the milk.
We'll save that for the yeah.
But before we get to the source, we should probably jump in.
I want to talk about you, Chris. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, baby. Yeah, it's been a good week. Not very eventful. I went out with some friends this weekend from the school that I work at, and just kind of counting down the days. I got a fall break coming up from my job, and excited to do a little traveling around Antioquia, where I live in Colombia.
And when is that? Like not this week, but the week after?
Exactly. Yeah. So like two episodes from now, we'll probably be talking.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Don't really have a whole lot. Oh, I'm trying to cut out the on this podcast. I've been listening to it a lot. There it was again. The ums and ahs. I don't want to cut it out because I like the open conversation, but I feel like I need to just not say it as much. Do you ever hear those kinds of things that you do all the time?
Like that?
I don't want to get too in my head about it, but
just let it flow.
There it is.
I'll give a couple of these last episodes. I haven't been listening the last couple of weeks, but I'll listen back, and then I'll have my own questions about myself. I'll get in my own head about something different.
Well, I would recommend not, honestly. I mean, we're doing just fine without it. I just was kind of curious. I do enjoy listening to it, but sometimes I'm very like I groan at the things I say. So it's maybe not a great thing to do. This is a little inside podcasting right now, though. Yeah. Chris, should we talk about last week's survey?
Let's do it, Tanner. Last week we watched, what was the name of the last one? Highlander
Endgame.
Endgame. Okay.
The second,
I couldn't remember if it was The Last Dimension because that name doesnn't mean anything.
that was number 3. Yeah,
Okay.
could slap that onto any of these movies.
Yeah.
All the taglines are interchangeable. Yeah, so on this podcast we have surveys that we release with every episode, and we ask you guys to follow along, make jokes with us, and we've got some right now.
Yeah.
We reached out to Reddit yet again, the Highlander subreddit. So shout out to you guys. Thanks for listening. I did notice a spike in listeners from Reddit, I assume. And yeah, make sure you like
up to like 4 now.
At least 4 listeners. Me, you, Kevin, and whoever that one person was on Reddit. Shout out to Kevin again. He likes to hear his name.
This is the kind of
this is just a podcast for
this
Kevin.
This is what we do for our listeners at this point. We're such a new show that our individual listeners get shout outs. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you want to reach out and tell us your name and that you listen, I will say I'll just read a list of names at the beginning of every episode.
What if that was the whole show? We just read a list of user submitted names.
That'd be amazing. Oh, I forgot to share my screen again. Sorry, Chris. All right. Let's get into it. Again, thank you to the Reddit people. And there'll be one more, I guess. So like every episode we read the survey answers from the previous movie. So when I ask for a response from the source this week, it's going to be on our next episode, which is going to be a new franchise. And we'll reveal that at the end. Actually, I'll reveal it now. It's going to be I Know What You Did Last Summer. Time for spooky season.
That's right. Spook 'em up.
Spook 'em up. All right, let's get into it. Highlander Endgame. We asked you what your favorite line was. The winner here was, I call this decap with a twist. No sugar.
Right when he killed Dame Dash. Yeah.
Dame Dash. Yeah, your buddy.
Uh-huh.
And then, a close second. I was surprised. Looks like you've lost your edge, lad, which was a reference to the wrestler, The Edge, who was the person
had a brief cameo. Yeah.
So someone
I
else
thought that was a clever
well.
little winking line. Yeah, I like.
Did you vote for that one?
No, I voted for the decap line. That was just such a good dad joke,
That's great. Yeah, I think I either voted for that or the club sandwich. I did like the club sandwich one.
Sure.
But next question here. We asked you what the most fucked up part of Highlander Endgame was, and we only give you 2 options. It's killing your wife to make her immortal without her consent, and then pretty fucked up. And then this guy's facial hair, which is you just have to see it. There's a picture in the survey, so look that up. And we talked about it last episode.
But it wasn't bad enough facial hair because it doesn't look like it won.
It did get 3 votes though. So some people thought it was worse, definitely. But most people voted for the killing your wife part, which was pretty fucked up. All right. Next question. It left it very confusing at the end. Is Kate dead or alive? So let's see. Most of the vote says alive. Kel spared her. And then one person said dead. It was in his head. And then I had a couple open-ended options here. People wrote it in. Continuity-wise, she's dead. 2 versions had her alive, and 2 versions had her dead.
Wait, there's 4 versions of that movie that we watched?
Well, I'm sure it's just like little snips. Not like Highlander 2 versions where it's different.
Okay.
But
it's interesting to me that everyone said, because I think I'm the vote that said that she was dead, because I just thought that was like a dream sequence or something. But it sounds like Reddit, which knows better than me, thinks that she's still alive.
No, that's the opposite. Continuity-wise, she's dead. That's what they say here. Or what? Well, no, you're right. The votes were 6 out of 9. I don't know. I guess it's just one person. Yeah. I guess only one person said continuity-wise thing. So I don't know who to believe.
Okay.
This person also said Dead, the original theatrical release, was right.
Okay.
So I think in this movie version, she is supposed to be alive, but I don't know.
Okay.
I'm more
Well,
confused.
it's a different woman. It's because it's Anna in this movie, right? In the movie we watched this week, so it's like a different love interest altogether.
And he did mention Kate being dead in this movie in the source.
Okay.
But it could have been in a different time. I don't know. Because the source takes place who knows when in the future, like way far. Well, that's still up for debate, I guess.
Yeah.
So let's see here.
All right, let's get into the fun ones, Tanner. Open response. Yeah.
Open response questions. So we were wondering, does the confirmed kill count on the computer screen for each immortal, does that mean that the immortal has killed that many people himself? Or does it include all the kills that someone else had killed? Does he inherit those kills? And then does this make sense? And some of the questions or some of the answers are killed that many. It does not make sense. Yes, no, yes, yes. Okay.
Yes.
So
no. I like that response. That's clever. Yeah, just answer them in order.
He has killed that many people himself. Yes. Does it include all the kills that other people had killed? No. Does he inherit those kills? Yes.
Oh, I think they meant yes, no, no, yes.
Or maybe it means they inherit the power from those kills, but not the number.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, I'm on board.
I think I like that one the best. Very just succinct.
Straight to the point.
I would say that it's the people that the immortal has personally killed. I don't believe kills are inherited.
Right.
And somebody did say they are inherited down here.
Well, that wasn't me. So yeah, somebody online thinks that. One of our listeners out there.
Again, we're not trying to find the definitive answer. I feel like that last movie we had some good definitive answers, but who knows? I don't think he inherits the kills. I think it's
okay.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. All right, we'll move on here. If more kills makes you the strongest immortal, what is the mortal equivalent of having lots of kills? So we got a lot of answers here. We got the the highest one is lifting the most weight, so that got the most votes. But there's a ton of other votes here. We got having the highest sperm count, having a large amount of sexual partners, age. So the older you are, the stronger you are. Having the newest sneakers. Oh, that didn't get any votes. Too bad. Having a fast car also didn't get it. Highest GPA. Nice. Learning the most skills.
Ooh.
I like that one. Having a lot of skills is another answer. Okay.
More skills. Yep.
Napoleon Dynamite took that one. Most stars on Uber. Nice. That's a good one. Was that you?
It's a counting stat. That one's me. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So the Watchers, the next question here. The Watchers luckily had a saw on hand to save Duncan. This is Duncan got impaled and they jumped out of a van luckily they had a saw to cut this fence. Handy, just at the right time.
Yeah, like a really intense, like circular saw to cut through rebar.
What other tools do you think they have at the ready? So we've got screwdriver, lockpick, magnets, dynamite, notepad. All right, very detailed.
I like that. Yeah.
An entire forge.
Good.
They have.
Is it the one in Scotland that we saw like a video or two ago?
It's carried around in the van, so you can spend 3 days making a sword.
Yep.
At any moment. A missile.
Okay.
Hammer and guns. Chloroform, rope, a mattress, handcuffs, usual stuff. lots. They have a handyman service as a cover. Oh,
I want a movie
okay.
about that.
Wait, maybe that is from the show. Maybe the Watchers are supposed to be like handymen. That's like their cover.
Oh, that's right, because this
So they
has a
have
lot
a
of
band.
tie-ins to the show. I always forget about the mythos and the Watchmen stuff has a lot of shows to tie-ins, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's probably accurate.
Okay.
Let's see. Hand lotion. They're voyeurs.
Was that one you?
No, I was
Okay.
the entire Forge one.
Great.
Sledgehammers. Nice.
Good.
Flares, snares, and scissor pairs. What? Okay.
I like the rhyming. That was the only reason I put that one in there. Yeah.
All right. Next question. What time period would you want to watch Duncan and Kate have sex in? So there's a part in the movie where it kind of cuts between 300 years in the past and the current day when they're having sex, having sex throughout time. So I want to see what you guys think here. We got late 1800s during the Boston Tea Party. We got
It's very specific. Yeah.
any, all of them, and none. Those are three separate answers.
Good.
One where I am not alive. The distant past of Zeist. Nice.
I like that answer. Yeah.
And then any time period is a good time period for AP's cheeks. AP is Adrian Paul. Good call. And then 69 BC. Oh.
Sex
That's
number.
the second 69 joke in 10 minutes.
I mean, are we only at 2? We're not doing our job as podcast hosts if we're only at 2, Tanner.
All right. Beautiful. Besides Merry Christmas, come up with a holiday-based one-liner to say after you kill someone. So there's a confusing scene where Joe, I think his name was, comes in and shoots a guy out of nowhere and says Merry Christmas. And we were left confused by the scene in general, but I liked the one-liner here. So we got Yippee-ki-yay, immortal fucker. Thanks for giving me the pleasure of killing you. Thanksgiving. Happy Valentine's.
There we go.
Happy Valentine's Day, bitch. Memorialize this. And happy birthday, motherfucker. Then somebody just says,
"All great, yep, happy Halloween."
I like thanks for giving me the pleasure of killing you. Very formal. We got Happy Halloween, Happy New Year for me. That's a good one. Don't lose your head over it. I think that was in one of the movies.
Okay. I will say not holiday themed unless I'm missing something there.
It's not.
Okay.
And then thank a union member for Labor Day. Great one-liner.
Yep.
Gobble gobble, motherfucker. Great. That's perfect.
Two heavy hitters for Thanksgiving here.
Jacob Kell, the headless immortal, had a very shiny quickening. Okay. Love it. Last question we got here. What happened with the murdered Watcher scene? So this is the scene we're talking about here. Someone help us. Okay, here's a long answer. The original version of the scene. So we watched some kind of edited version. The original version of the scene had Matthew targeting Duncan just after he took Connor's quickening. The intent was to drag Duncan back into the sanctuary. They moved it towards the final fight and cut out a chunk of the dialogue. Not sure who thought it was a good idea to move it and shorten it, but the editing of this movie is so poorly done. Okay. So they were trying to kidnap him and bring him back to the sanctuary. I think we kind of talked about that.
Well, I mean, there wasn't a lot, from my recollection, there wasn't a lot of clues that they were going to bring him back to the sanctuary because he got out of there.
Right.
Partway through the movie. Okay, that does help though.
So let's see. They tried so hard to make it relevant to the show. So fucking hard. Dumped in a ditch. Okay.
Murdered Watcher. Okay.
Watchers clean up dead Watchers' crime scenes.
So so like they were there to clean up after the quickening?
I guess.
Okay.
I did find out that Joe guy, the guy that murdered him in the scene, and he's in the source. So you find out, well, you probably knew it from the show if you watched the show, but he's specifically Duncan's watcher, right? So they're assigned specific immortals to watch.
Okay. That
so it's like his watcher.
Lot. Okay,
yeah.
that helps a lot. I had
so
some
he's
questions
protecting
about that
Duncan from
yeah. Okay.
So let's see. Haven't got a clue. Watchers are NPCs. Okay, I have no idea. It literally looks like a different movie. And then they clean up after themselves.
Okay.
All right.
Got some knowledge blasts in there. I think that helps me understand a little bit more about that movie.
Yeah, some great answers here. I really like the holiday themed one-liners here, guys. Keep it up. We got to come up with more prompts.
Stick around for I Know What You Did Last Summer. If if you like listening to me when I goof off.
Yeah, if you like to watch movies in general and you want to follow along, keep going. We will be done with Highlander, of course, but not yet, because we're going to talk about Highlander: The Source right now.
The fifth
on
and
Milking
final.
the Franchise. Cut. No cut. The fifth and final. Thank God.
That's right. Thank God it's over.
They're sparing us more of these sequels. Maybe a reboot is in the works one day, but they luckily are done with these. So where do you want to start with Highlander: The Source, Chris? This movie came out in 2007, and it was a direct-to Sci-Fi Channel original.
To Sci-Fi Channel original. Okay.
So yeah, it was. They made it. They kind of planned maybe a trilogy. They had to fight to get Adrian Paul to join in. Probably paid him a lot of money.
Yep.
Because this movie somehow costs $15 million to make, but or 13.
Wait, Sci-Fi Channel had $15 million to throw around on an original Highlander movie?
Well, I think they started to make it, and then they realized how shitty it was, and then they ended up selling it to Sci-Fi Channel because I think it bounced around from what I read. Yeah. It was originally supposed to be the first of a planned trilogy for Sci-Fi.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Huh.
So. Yeah.
Well, you know what they say when sometimes you'll hear like every penny ended up on screen. I don't know that I saw $15 million worth of movie on this movie, but maybe
I can't imagine. I mean, 3 of that must have gone straight into Adrian Paul's bank account.
I mean, that's how he started that Sword Academy, which again we'll get to later.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to jump into the plot here? Or do you have some
let's
more?
Talk about
the.
Yeah, let's talk about the early 2000s new metal music video that is Highlander: The Source. This movie is just doesn't it feel like a metal music video with just like all those quick cuts and weird editing and just shitty rock and roll like boring rock and roll licks. Oh man, it really took me back to like middle school.
The glasses that all the other immortals are wearing are very much that era too.
Yeah.
You know, like you can see those guys being like the keyboard player for Korn or something.
The fight scenes literally do look like they are from one of those old music videos. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google like early 2000s metal videos, and you'll definitely see something. Evanescence, maybe something like that. All right, Chris, start us off here.
All right, man. Well, let's see. Right at the top, we get the rules of Highlander. They wanted us to know the rules.
I love that.
Where there are immortals that can only be killed by decapitation. You gain the power from killing other immortals, and immortals can't have children. And I feel like they just were like, man, we've had to write in that 4 movies. Let's just tell them at the top and get it over with. And
let's only tell them the 3 that pertain to this movie. Not like this isn't all the rules of the immortal stuff. There's nothing
Right, they
about
don't
the
even mention the
gathering or the
quickening.
game or the prize or the quickening. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like, let's get rid of the rules right out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we go from that. We get some, like a little intro with all the words in papyrus font, which I thought was a nice touch. And then we go to Eastern Europe, and there is chaos and decay reigning over the world.
No law, no justice, only death and
Ugh.
destruction.
Man, but law and justice are so much better than death and destruction, Tanner.
Oh, I want law and justice.
So whatever city this is that this thing is supposed to be taking place in has two immortals, and we get like a narration over the top of like some cuts around this city, which is basically just rubble on fire. Like that seems to be what's going on in this town. And we've got Zygi, who is an immortal living in this city, and he's questing for the source, and they explain it as like a holy grail thing. And then the other immortal in this town is the one and only. I was going to say one and only, but he's not the one and only. He's one of the two Highlanders, Duncan MacLeod. He doesn't believe in the source, and so that's the setting that we get at the top of this movie. You got anything you want to add on that?
No, just like the standard post-apocalypse looking thing. There's just crime and fires and garbage.
Yep.
Very cheap looking overall. The color saturation of this movie is, I don't understand why they chose any of those choices. But yeah, that's about right. You don't really know what the source is. They're not explaining it, and maybe we never know, but
they don't really explain it until like 6 minutes left in the movie. It's like right at the end.
Even then, yeah.
And even then, it doesn't really make sense. So, yeah, not to spoil the ending of this podcast, but don't get your hopes up that this thing is really.
The girl is the narrator, right?
She is the narrator.
She says like the only man I've ever loved is Duncan. She's kind of explaining the world and the search for this source. In my soul, she says, in my soul, I believe in only two things: the source and Duncan MacLeod.
Is Duncan MacLeod one of the two things that you believe in, Tanner?
I know he exists. In movies, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I believe that he's a real character in a movie. Yes.
Okay.
So after this little opening, kind of just explaining the world, it jumps to a meeting between Mythos and a couple other immortals. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got a guy named I didn't catch their names at this point in the movie. I got them like right at the end. But Giovanni, who is like a Catholic priest or something, and then G.
What is this? What is the young kid's name?
His name is Reggie, and he looks like he's in Oasis. Yeah.
Reggie is just like this British guy with spiky hair, kind of like he's a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And it got me wondering if like can children become immortals in this world? You know, like if they die violently, is there like a tiny child immortal?
Like that still shits its pants all the time and doesn't know how to read.
A baby immortal that just you constantly have to take care of it forever.
I want a Baby Geniuses Highlander crossover movie. That's what should come next.
Imagine a baby that never grows old and never like learns anything and just.
What if that was
John? A baby forever?
What if that was his? What if his little son and that other was actually an immortal?
Oh, maybe.
And that was the message on the autograph.
It says, "Dad, I'm an immortal."
Anyway, so we're privy to this meeting between Mythos and his immortal buddies, and Reggie is busy explaining. And I wrote this down, so let me.
So many things here. This scene is killing me.
Reggie explains that the planets have moved out of their orbital paths and are coming into alignment. And this is outside the laws of celestial mechanics.
Yeah. I love it could be orbital wobble. Orbital wobble is one thing, but this
Orbital
think maybe
Wobble
I
might be the name of one of those
Orbital
90s new metal bands that you were talking about before.
Original music by Orbital Wobble. Oh,
Oh my God.
there's a question. Come up with a 2000s metal band name.
I love it. They're doing. But I loved the idea that celestial mechanics is like that's a real thing. Like,
Yeah,
did you take a celestial mechanics class in college, Tim?
I'm a celestial mechanic.
Oh, that's
Yeah. So in this scene, there's also like they're wearing like these digital glasses, that's video glasses, right? That's how they're
yeah.
communicating with each other. Very silly sciencey stuff in this scene. What
Yeah.
else?
Well, there are millions of celestial bodies from here to the center of the galaxy that are lining up. And when that alignment is complete, in 4 days, 3 hours, and 47 minutes, Earth will be bombarded with cosmic radiation.
Good, so good.
So
Yeah.
good.
Okay. What's a celestial
Just give
body
him the
in this?
Oscar already, man. Yeah.
I thought it was from here to the sun, and I was like, well, how many things are in between here and the sun? But
No, but
maybe it
it's like
just
the
say the
galaxy, but the
universe,
galaxy is
the galaxy.
expanding.
Yeah.
And so I don't think those things would line. I don't know.
Yeah. So basically,
I'm not the Sci-Fi Channel, so I don't know celestial mechanics quite as well as they do.
Chris, you're better than the Sci-Fi Channel.
I mean, after this movie, yeah.
Dude, okay, so basically the planets are aligning. You know, there's a lot of old legends or myths about the planets aligning, right? Isn't there like astrology
Mercury
things?
and retrograde and all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so like if all the planets align, something's going to happen. So that's what's happening right now. And I guess that makes it easier to find the source, or the source only exists when that happens. Is that what they're saying? Or does that have anything to do with anything? Oh boy.
I mean, it has to, because that's the only reason the source ends up coming to exist in the end of the movie.
Yes, when they align.
But I don't know if they've connected that yet, or I don't really understand.
Yeah, because most of them don't even believe, or where are they getting any of this information? Even I don't know.
From Reggie, bro.
Reggie just knows. Well, the girl ends up being the prophet at the end. I don't who knows. Yeah, so the planets are aligning, and well, okay. So they also said at one point that a bunch of different people have tried to find the source throughout history. So does that mean they knew that, oh, the planets are aligning, let's go find the source now? How would they even? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand it. But then there was another little moment in here where they're trying to like stop the source, go to the source, do something about the source. They're not very clear. But Reggie goes, isn't McLeod there? Can't he help? And I don't know where there is. It's like they don't know where there is. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like,
we got to find McLeod to stop the planets or whatever.
Yeah. I guess he goes and sword fights the planets to keep them from aligning or something. I don't understand. But
makes sense to me.
That's the setup for this movie. The planets are all aligning, and that's going to create some sort of cosmic radiation. Will create something called the source that they haven't explained yet. So if you are as glued to your podcast as I was glued to this movie, just strap in, because it continues to be,
or even our podcast. If you're glued to some other podcast, drop that and listen to ours right now.
Listening to two simultaneously.
Hey, I got shit to do. Okay, I listen to all my podcasts at triple speed at the same time.
Overlapping, absolutely
overlapping. All right, so let's see. We got a shot of the girl who's, I guess, she had been with Duncan in the past, I think, right? But she's like living in a football field. Everyone kind of lives in a football field for some reason. And she's feeding the children, just kind of showing her she's Mother Teresa of this. She's like a really just wholesome girl. And this is kind of cut in between shots of that other immortal we talked about. What'd you call him? Zyg?
I think his name is Zyg, yeah.
Zyg, and he's just running throughout his entire part in this movie. Mm-hmm. He's running from place to place. I don't know where he's going or what he's doing. He goes
It
into some
lets them show
building.
some more of that post-apocalyptic hellscape with just like piles of rubble that are also on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just running through town. He breaks into a building with his sword, obviously, and he gets shot for using the elevator. So whatever's in this building seems kind of important.
Yeah, he gets up to the elevator. He gets shot like 20 times by the guard, and he
Yep.
falls into the elevator and then arrives on the floor he was supposed to get on. And
Dude,
he
I
gets
wish I
up.
was immortal. He
I
can do
know.
everything, man.
I know. The guy didn't bother to make sure he was dead or anything. Plus, he came back to life quicker than most immortals do when they get shot. Right? Usually, it
Also
takes them
true.
like 20 minutes. He just came right back.
Mhm.
Do you know what he's doing here?
I don't know. He hacks into a computer using "there can only be one" as a login, because that's
Yeah.
what that phrase has been reduced
He
to in
speaks.
terms of this movie.
He speaks.
Yeah.
You can only be one, or there can only be one into a computer, and that's the password.
Why does
That
he
was
have to
it.
be in
Like,
this building to use this? Because he basically just gets on a Zoom call.
and what the fuck? I mean, that's like the easiest password of all time in this world of
Oh, without a
immortals. Like,
doubt.
that's what they all say all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be
Do
the
you think it's
number one
like?
easiest thing to guess.
Do you think it's like capital T? There can only be with just a B, and then the number one exclamation point.
Like at signs instead of all the A's, that kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have special symbols in there.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so yeah, what happens? He says the password, and I can't remember what happens.
He logs onto a Zoom call with Mythos and.
He logs into that same call that we were witnessing before. Yeah.
Well, it's with the same guys, but I feel like it's a different Zoom call. Maybe it's the same Zoom call. I'm not sure. But we get a couple shots of this character that they explain called the Guardian, kind of like running around town. And Zaiji has a map with him that has the coordinates of where the source will be, because somehow he obtained that information. But when the security guard on the first floor shot him, it ruined the map. So he doesn't actually have the coordinates that he thought he did, but he did explain a little bit more about the source, and just made it so clear he was about to get killed. Like, didn't you just?
Yeah.
I paused the movie at this point to like take some notes, and I was like, "He's about to die," and I like, I wrote, "He is predictably killed," and then I pushed play and watched it happen.
Nice. All I got for this little bit was they mentioned there's an ancient text that spoke of the source, and that the Guardian has risen. He's the guardian of the source. So it's this kind of big, monstrous looking guy. He looks like, I don't know what he looks like. What does he look like? I was gonna say Matt Smith, the guy, the Doctor Who guy. But actually, then I saw Giovanni later. Looks like Matt Smith to me with the hair.
Yeah. I don't know. He's like real pasty. He kind of they did the same like kind of like creepy white skin that they did in the new Thor movie with Christian Bale's character.
Yes, exactly.
Like real creepy looking. They got a pretty built dude to play him. And he's always like half dressed, so you see his like huge white pecs all the time. Did that do him justice?
Yeah, that's pretty good. The pale white skin is
and also feature. The strangest line delivery of any character in this franchise. Bad. He is like such a bad character.
So bad. So he comes in to this building. He's just, I don't know if they're showing how fast he moves yet, but he's kind of just running fast. He rips off the head of the security guard downstairs, right?
That's what he gets for shooting at Zaiji, my man. You know?
Yeah. And then he makes his way up to where Zaiji is, up in the password room or whatever. And he's got like this massive steel neck protector thing. Right?
We need to talk about that. Why don't they all wear those? That's the only way you can die.
Yeah. I first saw it a couple days ago. I'll talk about it more later, but I read a little comic book, Highlander comic, and somebody in one of those had like a neck protector thing. And I was like, that's genius. And then this guy has a massive one, just so big.
It looks a little like one of those plastic cones that they put on a dog so they don't like
Definitely.
eat
It's
out their
covering his
stitches.
eyes.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
know.
that
I'm
big.
thinking,
It
like,
goes from his shoulders up over his entire head, basically.
he's the guardian, Tanner. He doesn't need to see.
That's true.
He just smells your fear.
My feet? Oh, fear.
I meant fear, but yeah, or your feet. I mean, he's kind of a creep. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, and he also is like super fast. Like that's kind of his calling card throughout this movie. Is he's like way faster than any of the other immortals. And so he outmatches Zaiji, kills him, and there's a quickening scene in this.
Yeah. So these
in this room, yeah.
all the fight scenes in this movie with him are like he's like zipping around so fast that it's filmed very chaotically and just you can't see anything that's happening because it's supposed to be him like zipping around so fast that you can't catch up to him. It makes it very just ugly and chaotic and like weirdly sped up and slowed down and these are the parts that reminded me of the music videos from the 2000s.
It's pretty unappealing.
Very
footage.
bad.
Yeah, it's
like
not
it makes all these movies, even Endgame had like pretty decent fight scenes. Like that's a huge point of this movie. And by speeding up, making this character fast, I don't know if that was something they did to save money, so they wouldn't even have to film any sword fights or what. But it looks really bad.
Oh, and like it ruins the last fight scene the way that they shoot it.
Totally,
like it's
so
a
bizarre.
comic blunder. It is just insane. So, and
so it's like glitchy. That's the word I was thinking of. And he says right before he kills this guy, "There can only be me." And then he says, "There can only be me." And then he says, "The quickening!" Like he's shouting out these things as they're happening. Like the quickening is happening to me right now.
Well, they didn't put that at the beginning of the credits, so how else are you going to know it's going to happen unless he just yells it at the camera? You know,
is that one of the rules? The quickening?
It's part of their lore, right? Yeah, I don't know.
I know, but I guess it's not part of these rules. But yeah. And then this tower explodes, like this massive tower that he was in, explodes.
Yeah.
Oh, I said he had like kind of a Scottish accent too, and I wrote down that he sounds like a demonic Shrek.
That would have been a better movie than the one that we watched, but we'll leave that there. So the tower explodes as part of this quickening when Zaiji dies, and just as Duncan MacLeod is showing up, he watches the building collapse in front of him, and the Guardian kind of like almost floats down. I don't know. He appears on top of a pile of rubble, and says, "This is the end of time." Did you know why he said that?
I have no idea. I didn't even hear that.
Okay. Everything he says is like kind of stupid sounding.
He was so bad.
Just such a bad character.
Maybe worst.
Yeah. No argument from me. But they sword fight, and MacLeod is pretty outmatched. But he's saved when a pickup truck with Joe, who you just reminded me is like his personal guardian.
Accountability buddy.
Exactly. They have they do the buddy system, and so they keep an eye on each other. And Joe pops up and runs into the Guardian with a pickup truck and like blasts him through the air. And he were you writing down the things he was saying through this? I feel like
I was trying some of the things, like the quickening. But what did he say?
The truck. So the Guardian gets hit by a truck, and as he's like propelled through the air, like there would be a ton of trauma, like blunt force. You just got hit by a truck, and he just yells, "Hello, Joe!"
Love it.
It was so strange, such a strange thing to put in.
His lines and the line delivery was so bad. He just kind of says like what's happening, I guess. In this, I don't know. So then Joe is there to save Duncan. Duncan's like, no, I want to fight him. And so Joe shoots Duncan to like get him into the car, basically, which I kind of liked. That's the one way to control your immortal. You shoot him in the chest a bunch, so they quote unquote
So they
die
pass out.
they die for 20 minutes or whatever, and then got him into the car and took him away, got him out of there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then there's a scene next, I think, of the girl, back to the girl on the football field, and she's looking at some child from across the football field, and he's looking at her, and through his mouth there's like a vision, or she hears a voice. It's not the kid's voice, but it's like, seek the source, but it's coming from the kid's mouth, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But it's like an old British voice coming out of this kid's mouth. But when he says source, it looks like he's saying sauce.
I wrote that down too. Seek the sauce.
Yeah. Just like it doesn't line up with
seek
the accent,
sauce.
what the kid is doing. Yeah. Kind of funny.
So, and he says to find the elder, seek the source, find the elder. So it's getting very mystical. We're getting into like, they're trying to explain the origins of how anyone got these powers on Earth, and they just made it way more confusing. It's one of those things that doesn't need to be. So many franchises do this where they keep getting deeper and deeper into the mythos of it, and like try to explain so much of something that isn't really explainable. It doesn't need to be explained. You know what I mean? Because it's never going to make sense because it's like fantasy or sci-fi or whatever. And it doesn't need to have a reason, because even that, it's like, okay, well, what made that happen then? How far back to explain all this shit? Anyway.
Yeah.
So
no,
I
we
wrote,
really just
I wrote just boo.
Bullet points. Yeah. Go ahead.
After I wrote down find the elder, I just wrote boo across my page. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it cuts back to Duncan and Joe, and he's kind of like, what happened? You're my watcher. And he's like, there is no more watchers anymore. Or he's like, you're not supposed to interfere. And Joe says there are no more watchers anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this part of the movie, we also get a quick shot of Anna to remind us with the child, like you mentioned, but we also find out that she wanted a child in her relationship with Duncan. And because he is immortal, he can't have children. So that's why they're no longer an item, because she wants to be a mama and Duncan can't do it.
That's one of the rules.
It's one of the rules. There's only 3 of them. So yeah, you got to follow the rules, Duncan. And
now
then I don't know how they all find each other, because they didn't invite each other to the same place, but they all show up at a castle at the same time.
Yeah, it's like a castle-y, kind of old-looking. It's a place that's made to look where an elder would be. That's the only thing I could think of what it looks like. It's just like, let's just have this generic-looking, like comic book like old castle cave hybrid, with like some secret society stuff going on there, maybe, and like some just weird statues and shit for no reason. Yeah, so they're all there, like you said, for no reason. I don't know how they all figured out where to go and how to find it. Why haven't they been here before? Why haven't they seeked out this elder before if they know where he is?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's like, so all of Mythos and his, I started referring to them as the DJs because I thought their glasses looked stupid. But Giovanni and Reggie show up, and also
those are definitely DJ names too. Giovanni.
They totally are.
Joe.
But then Duncan and Joe show up, and then also Anna is there. And at this point, Anna and Duncan are not like back together yet, and so it's just real. They just all are there.
They're just all there.
Yeah.
And she like breaks in on her own, right?
Yep.
And they say like she's essential, and they have this kind of flirty thing. She's like, "You look like shit," just kind of showing their flirty nature between each other. I think. Do they find the elder already?
Yes. I wrote, "This is so stupid" next to elder. But he's like a real Jabba the Hutt character, like a fatty fat that is like, they've gone out of their way to make him look just kind of slimy and I don't. How would you describe the Elder?
Yeah, big slimy fat man. That's just I don't know. I don't know
don't
if
call me that, Tanner. I can hear it.
I was looking in a mirror. I was talking to myself. Yeah, so he's like, there are things worse than death, talking about himself, how he's just kind of like stuck wherever he is. And let's see.
Meanwhile, the Guardian shows up, and we find out that the Guardian and the Elder are like kind of brothers. And
oh, really?
The Guardian, they're like, they got the last time the Source was there. This was my understanding. The last time the Source was there, one of them got too close and he wasn't the chosen one, and so then they were both doomed to like live for eternity.
Right. So they
in
show
their respective states. Yeah.
They show flashbacks of them when they were younger, I guess, just wandering through the desert in an extremely red saturated shot of them finding like a big light source in the middle of the desert, which is, I guess, the source. And it's the Guardian that we see here, and one of these guys is also the Elder. And they kill what they call the Ancient One, and then it's basically them being forced to become a new Guardian, right? So you kill the previous Guardian, you become the Guardian, and you're forced to live there forever.
It's basically Santa Claus rules. If you kill Santa Claus, you become the Santa Claus.
Exactly. Stay tuned for next week when we do Santa Claus.
I think that's the plot of that movie.
I love that. The Santa Claus rules. Yeah. So he says, you may be seeking the source, but are you willing to pay the price? So the price is, I guess, being forced to be the Guardian? I don't know. Or an Elder forever?
I mean, being the Guardian doesn't seem like it'd be that bad. He's in like pretty good shape, and he's really good at killing people.
He only comes alive when the planets are lining, right? Or he only like comes out, I believe.
Oh, maybe maybe.
But the Elder wants to die. He says basically he's looking for release, so he's helping them find the source because he wants to be dead.
Maybe he meant sexual release. How do we know he wasn't hitting on them?
That's true. Good point.
I don't want to think about
that subject. Time.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there's a cemetery outside, and the Guardian pops up. Reggie follows him out there, and in the skirmish, Joe pops up and gets himself killed. There's also. Go ahead.
Well, the immortal or the Guardian is singing the Queen song, "Who Wants to Live Forever," at one point. In the scene,
I didn't catch that at that point, but that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's
the thing
another.
I was going to bring up was Duncan throwing his sword from like 40 yards away and hitting the Guardian in the neck.
Yes.
Yeah.
He also. So this is kind of cut in between when they're talking. I think. The Guardian also mentions right before this that the closer you get to the source, you will lose your immortality and grow weaker. And to follow the woman. So
seems like
anyway.
they kind of made those rules up.
Definitely.
Just cuts. Like real kind of whatever rules.
Yep. So he throws the sword into his neck. Joe dies. They say that they're each other's best friend.
Well, not quite. The way I heard it, he says to Duncan, "You're my best friend," and Duncan just says, "You're my friend too."
Ooh, didn't get the "I love you" back.
Exactly. Like, just he's on his deathbed, man. Just say he's your best friend.
Yeah, tell him what he wants to hear. Come on.
Yeah,
Oh, love it. I'm confused of some of the back and forth between the Elder and what's happening. At some point, right after this, Duncan's talking to the girl, and there's just a quick moment where he's like, I think she explains some things to him, like, we gotta follow me, whatever. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. And she says, yes, it does. And that's kind of the thesis or like the rules of this movie. That doesn't make any sense. And someone just says, "Yes, it does." Okay, well,
Yeah,
let's keep moving.
dude, don't you know anything about celestial mechanics, Tanner?
And I
Come
think
on, bro.
she says, "I've seen it before, but it was over me like a cathedral."
Oh,
you
I
get
did
that?
not write that down. That doesn't make any sense.
I might have misinterpreted what she said.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that's what she said. And she mentions that she just has like a vision and says, I don't know if I'm missing some stuff here, but she says we need to go to the water. Another thing that just okay, I guess we're going towards water.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Water.
Did I miss anything here?
75% of of the world is covered in it.
We need to go to the water, and then Reggie looks at a computer and says, "She's right.
Yeah.
There's water nearby, or something." She's right.
No, that's exactly right. It took me a minute. I think I can explain that because they explain it away because the celestial bodies that are aligning are pointing to a place on planet Earth, which is on an island.
Oh.
I think that's what Reggie is able to triangulate. That has to do with water.
So the planets are lining up towards a specific point on Earth. I did not get that.
Well, that's because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like,
yes, it does.
Sci-fi. You're right. All right. Yep. Argument over.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. He said, yes, it does. There's nothing I can say back.
We need to go to water.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so did I miss anything in that whole scene? Joe's dead.
Yeah.
Joe's dirt.
I was going to talk to you about why Duncan is so into this Joe guy, but you explained that earlier. So thank you. Because he's really broken up over his death. And so they decide they need to take a boat to this island. Again, they figured it out because Anna had a vision with water, and there's like their made up solar alignment that's taking them there. So they show up, but cannibals have taken over the island. And so the harbor captain is like hanging from a noose as they pull into harbor.
Yeah, that's good food though. Why was he hanging from? He's like hanging on a crane, right?
Yeah, they're not very efficient cannibals.
Yeah, I mean that's good. That's like a week's worth of food, probably.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of them there. You'd think that they would, it's just like be smarter with your resources, guys.
Yeah, another thing that was about to happen that's really dumb, as far as that goes. They've got a guy, some guy, I don't know who it is, but he's standing up, but there's like 6 tires placed over him, so he's like stuck inside of a stack of tires.
That sure is true.
And they're pouring gasoline on him, which is like, what? Okay, you're wasting more food. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, these guys are terrible cannibals.
I mean, I guess you could cook it, but it's gonna be all burned if you and tastes like rubber. I mean, What the hell?
Yeah, like tire fires are notoriously smoky and gross.
There's I think there's a callback line to Highlander 2 right here because he hands him a cigarette and he says, "Light." And isn't that what they said? They like blew up a homeless man, remember, in Highlander 2, and said,
right. "I think
you need a light."
You got a light, and then he blew him up.
He blew him up. I thought maybe this was like a callback.
I think you're right. I think it probably is.
Anyway, so he's covered in gas inside of tires, and they're threatening to light him on fire. I don't know who this guy is.
No, I don't think they ever explain it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's a showdown.
Yep.
Tell us about the dockyard dick down here, Chris.
About with what?
I wrote the dockyard dick down. That's
the big sword fight that happens here.
Yeah.
It's a big, campy, stupid sword fight underneath like some of those big container cranes. And meanwhile, there's like a real will they, won't they set this guy on fire thing going on where like the guy's like rolls out of the pathway of the gasoline and there's a lighter and
it keeps showing the same clip of like gas like slowly trickling towards a lit lighter on the ground. And it like rescinds, it goes back, and then it like shows it again, getting closer and closer.
Yep, that's exactly.
How does he get out of that though?
Well, I don't remember exactly how he gets out, but at one point I think Duncan throws a giant piece of metal at an oncoming gas truck. Am I skipping anything? Because I don't want to get out over my skis on
there's
this.
just the guy in the tire, which is just such a silly, I don't know,
visual. Yeah.
piece of visual. And somebody during this fight gets knocked into him right at the second that the thing is lighted on fire, and he just barely like gets knocked to the left of the fire, basically.
Just
so
enough.
He doesn't get lit on fire. And then there's a gas tank, a tanker truck coming in here full of gasoline or something.
Yep.
And Duncan throws the spear in through the windshield, and it just a massive, gratuitous explosion happens.
Yep. And as the explosion is kind of settling down just a little bit, the music cues in with the Princes of the Universe song from the first movie. But it is not sung by Queen. I don't think they could get the rights to the original Queen songs for this movie. So it's a
the cover
off version of that Queen song.
Much worse, yeah, and it's
much noticeably worse. Yeah,
there's multiple covers in this song. There's that, and then there's the "Who Wants to Live Forever." So the other ones were like, oh, they're missing the Queen music. This one tried to have it, but couldn't get it. So instead, they used knockoff versions.
And I wrote down who that was. Give me just a second. That was a guy named Chris Cott, spelled C-A-W-T-E.
I found it. The guy's name is John Sloman. No?
It said that he's vocals by him, but then the songs, it was a little confusing. Either way, John Sloman and Chris Cott sound like made-up people, and they are not quite the Freddie Mercury level that we're used to on these songs.
No. Very bad.
Yeah.
What the thing that I saw online of this, it was like a music video for this cover, basically. And it said, this version is tremendous, full, melodic, and powerful. Which I just like, they calling it tremendous in the description. And full.
If you're not going to brag about yourself, nobody else is going to. So you go get it, John Sloman.
Okay, where do we go from here? They save the dock worker guy.
They do.
I don't know how this fit into anything really, but
I think they were just arriving on this island where the source is going to be, and then they just kind of follow Anna's visions. Meanwhile, Reggie is like triangulating the alignment on his computer, and so they kind of like work their way inland. There's no gas at the gas station. There's no food anywhere because the cannibals have kind of eaten everything up. And they end up at this little house that had appeared to Anna in her visions. And they decide to stay there for the night because, again, there's like a countdown timer on this source thing. So they have until the next day.
So it's when the planets align. That's when they need to be wherever they need to be. There's some more stuff about Reggie here. He says Reggie's like the young immortal that I was talking about. When people think you're a bit of a cabbage, they tend to underestimate you. Kind of helps when you're an immortal. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. I just like that, a bit of a cabbage.
I think you're a bit of a cabbage sometimes, Tanner.
Hey. Whoa.
But I mean that in the nice way. The nice way.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
It tastes fine.
You're welcome. You're
Thank
welcome.
So the music in this scene I described as we've been talking about how it's like early 2000s metal, which it is, but it also just sounds like my friend's band from high school, or anyone's friend's band from high school.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then we get our first sex scene in the franchise with no nudity.
Boo.
Ooh. I assume it's because it's made for TV.
Yeah, there's no reason to even film that stuff, right? If it's going straight to Sci-Fi Network. Anna and Duncan hook back up. Like we all knew they were going to. Yeah. But they're supposed to be like watching guard, and Reggie is drunk. He's like drinking, and Duncan and Anna are completely not paying attention at all. And the Guardian sneaks up and slices up Reggie pretty good, but does not kill him.
Does not cut his head off.
Does not cut his head off. Yes.
Yeah, it's just more of like Reggie like starts to like shoot him instead of using a sword.
Uh-huh.
But he can't do it. He's way too quick. A lot of the zippy zip glitchy fight scenes shit going on,
Mhm.
and then quickly just cuts his chest up to pieces or a whole bunch. But it turns out he is dead, right?
Is he dead?
Yeah, they bury him.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They take
And
him
that's what
into
they
their
used to explain.
BMW.
Yeah, you're right. When you're close to the source, you lose immortality, so you can die. I forgot about that. And yeah, they do. He does die. You're not wrong.
Yeah, so they take him away in the BMW and are like, "Oh, he should be alive again by now."
Mhm.
But by the way, they've got like a brand new nice BMW, and like everything we've seen about this future scenario is just a wasteland.
Apocalyptic
Yeah,
hellscape. Yeah,
it should look more like a Mad Max vehicle at this point.
yeah.
And did we already talk about what time period this is supposed to be set in?
Oh, I have
'Cause
no idea.
I can't. Is it supposed to be like hundreds of years in the future, maybe? Because a futuristic version of Highlander would be cool. I guess they kind of tried that with Highlander 2.
Yeah.
But they really like it was like 30 years.
Well,
But this
and I
one
mean,
seems
they
like it
made
could be hundreds
and
of years.
and they what they chose to do in the future was build a dome around Earth that had a ceiling that you could walk to. So
Yeah.
like they could probably revisit that and find something a little better.
Man. Um, but yeah, so where are we here?
They're driving their fabulous BMW through the woods,
Yes.
and they arrive at such an obvious trap. They call it out themselves, but it's just so apparent. But they stop anyway. They get out of the car, even though they're mostly mortal at this point, right? Like Reggie has already died, and as they're cutting down this guy that's like tied up to the thing that's blocking the road, arrows start raining in, and it's the Guardian. He's back, and he's good at bows and arrows.
And
And so
then
he
something lights on fire, like a tree lights on fire and falls down and
very quickly,
makes the car explode too instantly. Which that would not happen, right? A tree on fire that hits the top of the roof, it wouldn't just explode.
Well, this is a documentary, wasn't it?
True.
Oh, I'm gonna have to rethink my viewing experience.
Yeah, and then we get this scene where they're running through the woods and there's darts coming at them constantly, and you get kind of like shots of the Guardian kind of gliding through the air on wires, obviously. But he's supposed to be like running through the trees, I think.
Yeah.
Supposed to be like Mutt up there swinging around in the trees.
That's a callback to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, if you were around for our Indiana Jones episodes. Yeah, and they get surrounded by these cannibals that have taken over the island. They get captured and they get hung up, probably to get eaten, right? To get cooked, so they could eat them.
Yeah, he says one of them says, "Take them for meat."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, these cannibals are really bad at being cannibals because they don't really pay attention. They like tie them up, but then don't pay attention to them for the rest of the time.
Yeah, and they're like, they're going to light them on fire again. Like, that's not what you do. You're supposed to eat them. Kill them first, cut them up into meat like you do with like an animal, and then you cook the meat. Don't just light them on fire.
Like this
don't just
cannibal group. This cannibal group needs a consultant, like someone to tell them how to do it.
If you were a hunter and you killed or I don't know, you kill a pig or something like that and you want to cook it, do you just throw the pig on a fire hole and then eat it after?
You catch it live, and then you hang it up as they did with a bunch of people, and then eventually you'll get around to eating it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. They kept showing shots of the Guardian like in a tree, very awkwardly, kind of like watching them, which I thought was, you just kind of have to see it, but it's really funny. And now, they're tied up now at a nighttime. It's like a pagan ritual Burning Man festival happening. And
it's a great way to describe that. Yeah,
it's like kind of a fiery dark shot, and they're hung up on wooden planks, and there's like a giant like straw man there, kind of like the Burning Man thing. Yeah, and it just reminded me of like some like weird pagan ritual kind of thing.
Yeah. The Guardian pops over at this point and takes Anna and says he's taking her to the source.
She
And
says
as
he's walking up, she says, "There he is, Duncan. I've seen him before." No shit, they've all seen him before, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, he like killed your friend and then also fought him in the cemetery where you were. Yeah, it's Mm-hmm.
Yep. What happens next?
I hadn't connected that, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. So the Guardian takes Anna to the source, and so we don't really see them for a little bit. But meanwhile, like some part of this like fire festival thing that Tanner had mentioned gets a little too close to to Giovanni, to Mythos, and to Duncan. So our three remaining immortals, and so it like the fire catches up on this rope. And Giovanni is able to use the fire to like burn his ropes off, and he frees himself, but he doesn't stay to help either Duncan or Mythos because he's kind of a dick, turns out.
Yeah, he wants to be the one or something, like he wants to be the one who finds the source, I guess.
Yeah. To bring glory to God. That kind of seemed to be his like driving force in this movie, but he's also kind of a scumbag.
Right. So he's like still fully Christian, I guess. They kind of mentioned something about that.
I mean, he's also wearing like a priest robes the whole time, like that black and white collar, and he has a huge gold cross around his neck most of the movie. True.
But you think that'd be like, after being alive for so many years, you'd be like, oh, maybe this isn't, I don't know. Maybe this isn't for me. This isn't quite what I read about in the Bible. But so what happens? I think Giovanni gets caught maybe, and they get out of there. How do they get out from being tied up?
I feel like the fire just keeps burning, and then they're able to escape. Is that right? But again,
because everyone stopped paying attention.
Terrible at keeping track of their food. Like this is three probably pretty tasty meat dudes, right?
Oh, so tasty, Duncan. Duncan.
These aren't old.
Super tasty.
These aren't olds. These aren't like
these are hot
people.
Youngs.
These are hot Youngs. They got that hot young meat.
That bod.
I want that hot young meat in my mouth.
Maybe too muscly, actually. Maybe too muscly.
Maybe too muscly. Maybe that's why they let them free. I don't know.
That's true.
So
yeah, Giovanni, they get out, and Giovanni kind of gets caught, and Mythos is like, hey, just leave him.
He left us.
Duncan's like, I can't, because Duncan's the pure of heart one. And there's what happens here. So there's a little fight scene, and at one point Duncan throws his sword, I think it's Duncan, at the guy on the motorcycle and chops his head off. We need to talk
about this for like a fucking hour. This is the kill of the series as far as I'm concerned.
Oh wow, yeah. Tell me more about it.
Well, oh my gosh, it goes into slow-mo, and Duncan throws his sword. You think it's gonna kill Mythos, but it flies past him, sticks into a tree just as a guy on a motorcycle is coming, and it like, so the sword is sticking out of the tree, and it decapitates the guy on the motorcycle in slow-mo with the worst CGI I've ever seen in sword. It is
so bad. This movie is so cheap. I don't understand how it costs
any money. Where did the $15 million go? I don't know.
It had to go to the cast. Yeah.
It must have. Yeah, but just incredible. Just incredible.
Crazy. Yeah, so that happens. He saves Giovanni. Giovanni kind of just takes off though, right?
Yep.
And
Mythos and Duncan have a little moment. Okay. Duncan and Mythos have a little moment. Mythos kind of recognizes that that Duncan is actually the one who's the pure of heart, and he's the one who should go find the source. And so he leads all of the cannibals in the opposite direction. So Duncan can go find Anna and the Guardian, and go towards the source. Meanwhile, Giovanni is out a little bit ahead, and he meets up with the Guardian and kind of is talking like he thinks he's the one, and the Guardian's like, nope. And so he gets his head cut off. So Giovanni is now dead.
Yep.
And didn't really put up a fight at all.
And again, he's like kind of hanging out in a tree waiting for him. He likes to hang out in trees, it seems like. The Guardian.
Yeah.
So now Giovanni's
It reminds me of that answer on our survey today. He's kind of a voyeur. He's kind of a creep.
Yeah, he likes to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you find out that the planets are very close to aligning now. And I think
also because they're clearly visible from Earth's surface. They're
oh my god, yeah,
100,000 times bigger than they are in the real sky. So, just don't even need a microscope. Don't even really need to look up. You can see they're right there.
Yeah. So they come to the source, which is just, it's like, I don't even know where it's supposed to be. Is it in the sand? It's just like a little spot with kind of a little walkway up. And it's like kind of some light, and it's right. You can see, all of the planets aligning clear as day from Earth, which makes no sense.
Correct.
I don't know. Does it kind of look cool? What do you think?
Oh, question of the day. I'll give you kind of looks cool. Yeah.
Like maybe if somebody
visually, if they were like real life size, you wouldn't be able to tell what was going on. So like I understand why they did it that way, but it just also
like if this was another planet where like how they have sometimes in sci-fi things where other planets are really close to that planet and you can see them like huge in the horizon. So like the art style of just that one shot of the planets aligning, even though it's cheap, it kind of looks cool, and that's maybe the best thing I could say about this movie. But it doesn't make any sense because we're on planet Earth, and you wouldn't be able to see him like right up close.
Yeah. If you understand this, get at us, because to both of us it feels ridiculous. But also, while the source is happening, they are able to fight faster. There's like extra power that they get from the source.
Does the source happen? Is it a thing that happens? I mean, that actually makes sense when you said that.
My understanding, if you think of it like their cosmic radiation, like while they're in line, like it's putting this
appears,
extra
the source
energy.
happens. Yeah.
Okay,
that makes sense.
But I did think it was weird because it seemed to give them extra power while they were fighting. But it also took away their immortality. So it was like more power and less power. I didn't really understand that. But again, whatever. We're going to handle that away.
Yeah, they're supposed to, as they get closer, you're right, like get weaker and less immortal. But I think technically in this scene that they still have to get their head chopped off. It seemed like at the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, so it makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
So this fight scene.
It was the worst. Just the worst.
It's like all sped up, glitchy, all the same stuff we've been saying. He's like sliding around on the ground super fast, and they're slashing at him. What even happens?
A lot of like chest cuts. You know what I mean? Where they're just like an inch away from a real body shot. And the whole thing is sped up. The lighting is really weird because it's taking place in this like source thing, and then I cannot even explain this, but at one point the Guardian kind of stops fighting and starts spinning and spins
like
so fast that like a top, yes, spins so fast that he buries himself like up to his shoulders in the ground. Yeah. And I cannot wrap my mind around why that happened.
He's just like Duncan is like slashing at him, going around him, but he's just spinning, like a top in a circle, and spins too fast, screws himself into the ground. Like
did he do that on purpose? Like, it was like a cartoon. It was like a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner thing.
He may have wanted release from his guardian, so maybe he did. Maybe he did do that and be like, "Hey, kill me, so you can be the guardian, and I can finally die." That could have been it, actually.
But yeah, and then we're
either
about
way.
to. There's another little twist coming that might explain this, but I don't understand that twist either. But anyway, he's buried up to his neck. He can barely even fight back, and Duncan's about to kill him. And did you catch the line that he yelled at Duncan at this point?
Oh, do it, you immortal fuck!
Yeah,
And Duncan,
what a line! What a line, dude.
Duncan says right before that, "I am Duncan MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod.
Uh-huh.
Who I am is who I was.
Okay.
Who I am is who I was.
Who I am is who I was. Yeah. So I can tell you where that $15 million didn't go, and that was to writing a script that made any sense. And then Duncan doesn't kill him, but he explodes.
Yeah, so he has like the two swords right over his, like right about to chop him off, and Duncan's like, "No, I'm done with this shit. I'm done chopping heads off. I'm retiring." And it just ends. The guy's like starts screaming, and he disintegrates and explodes.
Why did that happen?
Well, they explain it here after this.
Please tell me. I need some canon knowledge there.
He explodes. And yeah, he didn't cut his head off, and I was just like, wait, he exploded anyway. And then there's kind of a replay of the opening scene with the girl narrating about death and destruction and where the state of the world is, and she kind of just recaps the whole movie for us. And they just kind of explain it all away that since Duncan, okay, I'm going to try to explain this. The source.
I'm still waiting. You're doing great, but I'm still waiting.
Yeah, the replay of the opening. The source. She says the source source can't be used for evil. Only one can pass the test, and only Duncan was able to pass because it's not about strength. It's about purity of heart. It wasn't about death. It's about life. A bunch of shit that means absolutely nothing. It was never about death, Chris. It's about life.
So here's my question. So is the Guardian then like some sort of like,
so
he's just like a protector to make sure somebody evil doesn't get the source? Is that what's happening? And at that point,
so I think
didn't kill him, he proved himself worthy.
When he became the Guardian, they mentioned him and the what was it called? The Elder or whatever. Those two killed. So the Guardian here killed the Ancient One, which was the previous Guardian, I think, of the Source. And so if you kill the Guardian, you become the next Guardian. This is how I'm understanding it, and I don't know if this is right. But if you don't kill him, in the eyes of the Source, he goes away forever. So not killing him is what killed him. And was able to make Duncan pass the Source's test.
What I needed all of those things you just explained in the beginning, in addition to those 3 rules. I needed like a list of 7 rules.
Well, that's giving it away. This is the big twist. It wasn't about death. It's about life, Chris.
Oh, I heard you the first time you said that. Okay.
It's not about strength. It's about purity of heart. And do you know what it is?
The Source? I don't know, Tanner. Now I'm confused.
Immortality? I don't know. I have no idea. And then she just kind of explains away Duncan was the only immortal to ever have a child, a gift from the Source to us and the world. And it ends on the shot of a fetus.
Dude, that shot of a fetus is insane, though. You can't just say that. It's like how would you explain that? It's like a CGI. The whole thing is like a white background.
Yeah, it's just like a white saturated. Everything in this movie is heavily color saturated. Every scene is either tinted blue, tinted red, tinted green, tinted fucking shit brown.
Oh, and this one at the end, they wanted it to make it look like they were like
purgatory.
Kissing.
Yeah, it's like purgatory, kind of like all white nothingness.
Yeah. And then there's a ridiculous movie cue. I was like literally laughing out loud for this. This was so funny to me how they chose to end this movie. Cause then the credits smash in, like after this insane, like it closes on a fetus. And it's just like,
He was able to have a baby thanks to the source, thanks for not killing somebody at the source. So this whole time, all these Highlanders have been killing each other, when in reality, they were supposed to not be killing each other.
Yep.
So
Nailed
maybe
it.
if like they hadn't cut off anyone's head, but he killed tons of people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We had the
Yeah,
stats
it's so
in the
bad.
last movie. It was like 170 people, you know?
And the song that starts playing, by the way, right away after the credits, the lyric is "Take me back to the source," and
great.
Take me back to the source.
I do have one little fun thing about the music that I caught in the credits. I have never seen this before, but the bands that are credited, we have John Sloman and Chris Cott, which we talked about before, but also bands called Spot, 7 Day Story, all one word, and 40 Store. But what I thought was funny is they also introduced
40 Store, right?
40 Store, thank you.
Yes.
But it also introduced the members of those bands. You know, normally it will say like,
I did see some of these names and I didn't write them down, but please.
Yeah, I mean, well, I didn't write down too much, but it said things like Lee Bunting, guitars and lead vocals, and then it gave like six people were listed for each band, and like, I don't think
it's like music by Queen, but then it says, and then it would say like, and Queen is comprised of, and then it would list every member of Queen below. Yeah.
But they didn't like give shout outs to Brian May and Freddie Mercury in the first movie, because that's weird. But Spot, 7 Day Story, and 40 Store all got.
That's because they're all just like friends of whoever made this movie.
I think that's
the kind of music that was in it. It's like, let's just get our friends shitty metal bands in here, and then we'll make sure to shout them out in the credits so that they can, like, you know, it's a little boost to my buds.
I will say, I kind of like that.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I don't have any problem with it.
But I've never seen it.
I feel like they had funny names though too. Some of the guys, they're like stage names. But like you were saying, Sloman didn't sound like his real name.
Yeah, it sounds like a made up name.
Okay, so fuck. Do you want to talk any more about the plot or any more questions to ponder about how this actually ended?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I just was I was laughing by the way they chose to end it with the purgatory kissing scene. I was very confused by what the point of the Guardian was, if he was just going to disappear when he didn't get killed.
It's just like he showed purity of heart and restraint, and that killed him and allowed Duncan to be able to have children. And she just got instantly pregnant. So it's like, is it supposed to be like a Jesus thing at this point too? Like, she get immaculately conceived, or did that baby, you know what I mean?
Remember when they were having their fight scene, it was way faster. So maybe they just had sex way faster.
Oh, it's like the Flash where he does all these other things so fast that it shows it in but, you know,
like in regular speed,
regular speed, but he's really going so fast that no one else can see it happening.
I think that's it.
Could be.
I think we figured it out. We cracked the code, Tanner.
Oh boy. Well, that's Highlander the Source. Chris, I have no idea how you're going to react, but what did you think of this movie?
This movie was entertaining in a bad movie sense. So I think if you like go into it with the right mindset, it's kind of a fun watch. But this is not a good film. Do you have any thoughts on this, Tanner? I would love to hear what you think.
Oh, it's terrible. It doesn't make any sense. It ruins. It explains shit that didn't need to be explained. It's got. I don't even know. Like some of the worst special effects, cheapest looking. Just the choices are bad. The color choices, the color saturation in every scene is so dumb. The music is terrible.
The villain
covers
is
are bad.
laughable. The villain
is insane.
It's just like
the fight scenes are ugly and just shitty. I mean, why would they do that speed up thing? That just ruined everything. I honestly think that was some kind of, I don't know if it was supposed to be a stylized choice or it's supposed to be cheaper, but I know Duncan or Adrian Paul knows how to sword fight. Just, you know, why didn't they have him do some sword fighting? Instead, it's just all sped up and like they didn't actually do any sword fighting that I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a couple scenes there was some shit, but no, it was terrible. Like I said,
Yeah.
the only MVP was maybe that one little, just kind of like shot of the planets aligned, which is like that could
That's
be
your
a cool
MVP.
like.
That's your MVP.
Well, if you like saw some like stylized like a glow in the dark painting that you'd have up in college or something of like the planets aligned over the water or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe the thing I'm envisioning, it's
Like
like,
a
oh, that's
black
kind
light
of a cool
poster. Like
looking.
a black
That's
light
kind of a,
poster. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And it's like, oh, that's kind of a cool like visualization, but that's it. That's the only thing I can say. Adrian Paul is okay. I like him enough, but
Yeah.
unfortunately,
He was not the problem with this movie, but there was
oh
nothing
no,
around him. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no,
I think I'm
it's
going to give
bad.
my MVP, Tanner. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Lee Bunting on guitar and lead vocals for the band Spot.
Spot. Which song was Spot? Do you even know?
I'm not sure. That's just the only name that I wrote down for the
band. Maybe Giovanni's hair could be
good. Yep.
How would you describe his hair?
Oh,
Methos is actually a pretty good actor. That guy's not bad.
I did. Yeah, I did actually like the scenes he was in. That's fine. Yeah, that'll be fine.
That'll be fine. That's it.
That'll be fine. Or
the girl was very bad.
Maybe I'll give it to the guy in the tires.
The guy in the tires, yeah. He did some great tire acting.
Yeah.
Did I interrupt you? Were you about to say something?
No. That's all. I mean, I think you're right.
Girl
this
was pretty bad.
Is a miss on almost every level, and I don't know how you're gonna pick an MVP from all that. So anyway,
no, yeah. So okay, let's talk about it. It cost $13 million. It says it made $200,000 worldwide box office. So maybe they kind of revealed it or released it in like a couple theaters when it came out, or maybe later on they put it in theaters for a minute. I don't know. So it made a little bit of money.
Maybe it wouldn't surprise me if this franchise had a bigger following somewhere abroad. You know what I mean? And that's
it does. It 100%
turning out these sequels. Yeah, so it might have just gotten a sci-fi release in the States, but they're like maybe in Romania or something. They're super into Duncan MacLeod and.
Oh yeah, it's big in like France and Europe and stuff like that.
Okay.
I watched I'll talk about it in a sec, but I watched the documentary from Highlander 2 the other day that it's called Seduced by oh god, Argentina, because okay, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but they did mention in that it was like a huge deal in France when the movie opened, because they're like, oh, we got screwed. The first movie, like, we kind of got fucked over by the marketing in the U.S., and they were disappointed because they loved the movie. This is like the director and producers talking of the first one, but they're like, we went over to France for the premiere, and it was like a huge deal. Like, there was, people in the streets, like kind of like maybe not people in the streets, but it was like a big promotion, and everybody loved it, and it was a huge hit overseas.
Okay.
So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this movie cost $13 million somehow.
Oh well, Christopher, what's his
Lambert?
Yeah, he's from France, right? So that would make a lot of sense, actually.
He's from France, yeah.
Right, and he's in a Sean Connery movie, so I'm sure that was.
Yeah,
and the first one rips, so like I'm sure that was. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie premiered on Sci-Fi and it was supposed to be the first of a trilogy, and everyone hated it, so they never made any more. Thank God. And I think I mentioned that Adrian Paul didn't want to come in. They wanted Connor MacLeod as well, and they're just like, everyone's like, no, this is going to be bad. But somehow they got Adrian Paul to come in, probably with money.
Yep.
Yeah, so I can't really talk about the box office, I guess, because it wasn't fully released in the U.S. in the box office or in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
But Chris, do you think this movie deserves any more sequels?
No, please no.
Stop. It's
What?
already dead.
Make it stop. Um, I can't even imagine. So 2 more Sci-Fi Channel sequels. What would they have done?
Yeah, they already found the source. I mean, what else can you do?
Does he raise his little boy? We have to watch that.
Yeah, well, that could
Like,
be. I was thinking that, yeah, maybe the little boy would be some kind of
the next McCloud or
Christ-like
something.
immortal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, I agree. No more sequels, please, of this. We'll talk more, but we'll do a little franchise recap at the end here. But yeah, it sucked. It was really bad. Anything else you want to say about the source before I get into some of the milk?
Nope. I think we've about hit this from most of the angles that I can think of. So I would love to get to the milk.
All right, do a quick milk, and then we'll talk about Highlander as a whole before we put it to bed. So the milk. Do you have any milk this week? Do you want to talk about the sword, whatever?
Oh yeah. Tanner sent me a video this week, and I was kind of slacking on the Highlander milk. So my apologies. I'll get it going again.
Cutting out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, Tanner sent me a video this week about Adrian Paul has a sword fighting institute that you can go take part in. Is it in Ohio?
I think it's on the. I think it's all over. It kind of travels around. The sword experience. Yeah, it looks like South Dakota. There's something happening in Ohio, and it's currently happening. And you can book like sword fighting training
with Adrian Paul, right?
Well, he's at least in parts of it. I doubt he's always there, but
okay, he's at least sort of attached to this. So if you want to learn how to sword fight,
latest sword fighting news here, Kevin Hart or something. I don't even know. If you're looking for
anyway,
any and all sword fighting news, go to swordxp.com. What were those videos like? I didn't actually watch the YouTube video.
No, honestly, the production value on the video that I watched, and it was literally just a bunch of like people who did one of these experiences to somewhere in Europe, and so I'm sure they, like sell this travel package to people where they go practice sword fighting, like in France or like Turkey or something. And so a bunch of people were there practicing their sword fighting and talking about how great this experience was. It was kind of like a promotional video, I think, for doing one of these trips. And honestly, the production value on the video was pretty good. It was maybe better than the movie we just watched. So that was my very limited milk this week. But I love current. And I love that Adrian Paul is doing this. I love that this is.
It's all current. Like these videos came out in the last couple months. Some of them.
Yeah.
Like it's still happening. It's still current. He's still a part of it. And I just found here on the website this section called Cool Images. And you can buy just like for $20 pictures of Adrian Paul from the 90s.
Great.
Which is
look,
really
Tanner,
funny.
Once our podcast takes off and we're just rolling in dough from all the sponsors.
I can't afford this yet.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there, but we're not there yet.
I want cool stuff. Welcome to the cool stuff. It says. It's just
I'm gonna say, at some point, Tanner, if we are rich and famous, our website needs a cool images page.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, so write that down. Type it into the spreadsheet.
The milk experience. It's just people can buy $20 pictures of us from 20 years ago.
Oh Lord. Well, they exist. So
watermarked with the sword experience, of course. That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing. I don't know that I would have stumbled upon that on my own.
So I have a couple things. I watched like an episode. Well, I'll say I watched 15 minutes of a show called Highlander, the Raven, which was a spinoff of the TV show that got canceled after 1 year. And it's like starring some chick from the show that I never saw because I didn't watch it enough. Joe is in it though a little bit. I didn't see Duncan.
Hello, Joe.
Hello, Joe.
That's
Go,
what the
Joe.
Guardian yells when he gets hit by a car. Continue.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. It seems like okay, so she's 1,000 years old. She's kind of bald or like short hair. She's a thief of some type, and it's kind of like a police procedural show with a cop and an immortal, is what the thing is. And she's kind of flirty with the cop. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what it is. It's like a police procedural with the cop guy, and then he's got like an immortal helping him solve cases and stuff like that. Which I don't know. It's very much like, I don't know if you saw. The quality is like those. What am I trying to say? Like USA level shows from the '90s, starring Pamela Anderson.
Yeah,
she was on like this top show. I can't remember what it's called right now.
It was called VIP.
VIP. It's exactly. It was that kind of quality of like writing, and it was kind of sexy and kind of like campy and crappy. One of the lines that I saw in the first 10 minutes was, "You sleep with the devil, you wake up with burns in your ass." So, there's that show if you want to, if you really are.
So that's out there if you guys want to get some more of this Highlander content. Yeah.
Yeah. And then besides that, I actually read a couple of these Highlander comics. So I was able to find some stuff online and just kind of read them.
Great.
Only took about half an hour, but it was called Highlander. I read them kind of out of order, and I couldn't find the first one. And it was called Highlander Armageddon. And in that story, it stars Duncan MacLeod. And he's just like ripped and buffed throughout the whole thing. So he gets kidnapped. It's in the future, and it takes place after Endgame, and it ignores the source, basically.
Okay. Sure.
And it's by Dynamite Comics. So basically, in the comic here, they have really cool detailed fight scenes of like that was easy to read because it would be like 4 pages of a fight scene, and it just but they had like, it was just pretty stylized, pretty cool looking. Each like swing was a cool new shot. But he basically meets after Endgame, like 2 years after Endgame, he meets Mythos in New York City, and the Immortals are being killed or gone underground. They're disappearing. You don't know what happened. And some immortal lady fighter hops out of a helicopter, and it really stars this chick, which I thought was a cool thing to have a female immortal fighter, which they hadn't had yet, and they still don't have in any of the movies. Yeah. But she kidnaps Mythos, and you find out she's been kidnapping.
They did have Kate in the last movie. She was immortal at least.
But she didn't fight.
She didn't fight at all. You're right.
It wasn't like a badass or anything.
Yep.
So she kidnaps him and kidnaps Mythos and takes him to this place where basically they are kidnapping all of the immortals and having them fight to the death, kind of like Mortal Kombat style, or like, it's like a coliseum for immortal fighters to fight each other.
That would be awesome.
I know. It was cool. Yeah. And it was like pretty good. It's a quick read. They make Duncan fight Mythos, but they can't kill each other. And they're like, oh, well, I knew that would happen. And there's kind of flashbacks to Connor inside of Duncan's head, and he's talking to him. So it definitely continues the mythology a little bit better than the source does. That's for sure. So this other guy steps in and tries to fight Duncan, and let's see what happens here. Oh, this is where they have the girl that has the metal thing around her neck, and it was first introduced to me here, which was cool. But at the end of this fight, he tries to cut her head off. He knocks the metal thing around her neck, and when he knocks off the metal protector, an atomic bomb goes off. So,
excuse me there?
Like across in Tunisia, which is where they are. Yeah, okay, so there's some like old lady, priestess lady, and she has all this culty following, and this is where this is happening. And she wanted Duncan to come here and try to cut this girl's head off so he would set off the atomic bomb and make him look bad or something like that. I don't know. It's crazy. So they kidnap her and take her to the space where all the nukes are. And let's see. One of these other immortals that's been helping them out of the fighting pit challenges him to a fight. And they tell Methos is like, don't kill him, dude. Don't kill him. You're going to blow up. Because they're in this room with a ton of nukes. And he gets like fed up with it. And he's in a bad headspace, apparently, after Endgame. That's like kind of because that girl was dead in this universe.
Okay.
And he cuts off the guy's head and causes like 20 nukes to go off from the quickening of it all. And that's how it ends.
What a ride.
Then they just have a drink together and they're like, well, they're recovering from like, there's some cool things. They're like, oh, you're going to be sick from the nuclear blast for like 20 years. Do you really want to deal with that? You know, because they're immortal, they're not going to die, but they're going to just be sick from it. It just made me realize there are some cool things you can be doing with this universe that they fucked up on these sequel movies.
Yeah.
And then I ended up reading the one before that, which they weren't really linked that much, but it was called Dark Quickening, and it kind of takes place after the first movie, but before some of the other stuff. And it's with Connor McLeod, and it talks about how the killing the Kurgan like infected him with dark quickening. So if you kill an evil immortal, you kind of like, for a while at least, start doing evil things. Like you're kind of controlled by them, and yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, you've taken on their power. I that would have been an awesome thing to explore in these movies.
Yeah. So he like, this one wasn't quite as entertaining as the Armageddon one. They blow everything up. But he kind of just wrestles with Kurgan in his like dream state a few times and like fights him there and is able to escape this evil quickening that has taken over, because he's like attempting to kill people, like his friends, like Duncan. He tries to kill Duncan, tries to kill his girlfriend. So yeah. But overall, pretty entertaining. I enjoyed it. There's one out there that I could not find, but pretty cool.
Great.
And that's my final milk for Highlander franchise.
How do you feel about saying goodbye to this franchise, Tanner?
Oh, I'm ready. My body's ready. Overall, this franchise is super cool. The first one is an awesome movie, and I hope that you watching these, Chris, didn't like. It's almost like you watch all the good one first and all these shitty ones after. That you kind of look back on it, and hopefully it still holds up, that first one. You know, looking back,
I think definitely.
It does. Okay. It doesn't tarnish how awesome the first one is, but I'll never watch any of the sequels again. Maybe Highlander 2. Who knows?
Highlander 2 is pretty. It's every week it's gotten more fun in hindsight for me.
Yeah.
Highlander 2 has.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would
just
happily watch that after a bad movie night or like something like that. It was a pretty good time, even if it was baffling and super confusing.
Even the third one I ended up liking more in hindsight. The Sorcerer. What are you ready to move on? How did you feel about this franchise as a whole?
Yeah, I think I agree. The first one is great. The second one, and then I think throughout the rest of them, I'm really glad we did this franchise because it's fun watching bad movies and talking about them with you. And there are moments of just zany madness throughout all of these. And so, even if some of the movies weren't that great, it was still a good time. But I think I'm certainly ready for a change of pace. And October's coming up, and it's going to be a good change of pace for us.
It's just crazy how far franchises can fall sometimes. I mean, The Source was just, it's not, I don't even know, has none of the original feel at all.
No.
It's too bad. I think looking forward, where would you want this franchise to go?
I mean, hard reboot.
Hard reboot?
No Duncan, no Connor. We need a whole whole different. But I mean, this universe works that way because like they bring in new immortals every movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this was going to be a question on the survey for everybody. You know, so you're saying full reboot now. Would you want it to be just new characters, new Highlander, get rid of all this stuff? You know, a lot of these movies, they'll do like a legacy character where they'll try to fit it in, but it'll be a soft reboot, a new character on their own, but they kind of, like the Charlie's Angels remake was like a new set of angels, but we're kind of like linking it to the past in a winky kind of way and like kind of show the history of the angels or whatever. But would you want it to link a little bit or just full on reboot with no connection at all?
Well, I mean, I think that, like you said, the people who love these movies so much. I think it would be foolish to not acknowledge them and not try and tie it in a little bit. But I also think it would work well as not as a movie, but as like an HBO show. Like if you could do a Highlander HBO show with, and weren't we talking about like Henry Cavill wanted to do this? Like that would be a really cool show. I would really enjoy that. But
it'd have to be good.
Yeah. And
it couldn't be some like sci-fi original.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. What would you like to see out of this franchise?
Well, I think the temptation to do the soft reboot and link it to the past is just going to make it so messy because the continuity is already so fucked, and it's like just leave it alone. You know, I think you can do a lot with it. There's still a lot more you can do. I guess I'm torn between doing a full reboot with a new Connor McLeod in the title role, right? Where it's like basically you could remake the whole first movie and have it rock and roll and crazy, fighting the Kurgan all over again. And then maybe start a new franchise from that and see where that goes. Or you could just reboot it as the Highlander, but it's a different person's name, like not Connor or Duncan McLeod. Just like, I don't even know.
I feel like your first idea is like a good one. Because, I mean, it's called the Highlander.
Just a full reboot, right? Where it's like the same Connor McLeod. Maybe you can even work Duncan McLeod into the first movie, so it's like kind of tied in. There's someone else, or maybe introduce him at the end, and that'll lead into the sequel or something. I don't know, but I think just leave the old stuff. Leave Chris Lambert out of this. You know, let it. Don't try to connect it because the storyline just kind of fucked at this point, right? The continuity.
Yeah. Agreed. And they have so many little pieces of mythology that go along with it that you would have to stay true to if you really were following this very closely. So yeah, I think like you could redo the first movie and then just go do your own thing. Because there's a ton. I mean, they're immortals across time. There's so many stories that you could tell and so many little bits of action and fighting across time.
I think that temptation just to like plug in those old characters somehow and make it fit is always there for these companies. And it's just like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to make it fit. Just full reboot. That's what I'd say. I wanted to just get in a few random notes. I don't know if this is going to be, maybe this is just going to end it on a sour note here, but I did watch that Highlander 2 documentary. And if you want to revisit Highlander 2 while we're kind of revisiting the franchise, you want to do that with me?
Yeah.
Okay, a couple just random tidbits that I learned is that they shot it in Argentina because it was going to be 1/3 of the price, and you know, for the crew down there, it's like way cheaper. But then they were over budget, and insurance companies took in and made them finish the movie quickly, which is why it made no sense. It kind of made me realize that it made me forgive some of the crappy things about it, because there were some entertaining parts about it too.
And honestly, I'd say that's kind of too bad, because I feel like if the second one has been as good as the first one, this like the whole trajectory of the franchise could have been different, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it makes me realize that director was the one who made that movie good. You know what I mean? the Russell McKay guy, and he directed the second one, but just got fucked by budget and like the producers and the movie company and all that. And apparently, like that, that mountain scene that you saw, that whole extra like 20 minutes that I didn't get to see. They filmed that 4 years after the fact and got all the people to come back to refilm that just for that Renegade edition.
For that? Oh my god!
For that like truck fight scene, the mountain chase scene.
Huh. Okay.
That's pretty much all I got. It just kind of made me realize that maybe I like Highlander 2 a little bit more than we gave it credit. At the time, I learned I kind of last week I made fun of Chris Lambert for having like a Neanderthal stare, as I said, and I found out that he actually has myopia and is like nearly blind. Really? And that's kind of why he has that stare sometimes, where he looks like he's like looking off into nothing. And because when he has his glasses off, he wears like these thick glasses all the time, off camera. And yeah, when he has them off, I think he's like completely blind.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I had no idea.
So I apologize to him for that. That's what I wanted to say.
Shouts out Chris Lambert. Yeah.
But I don't feel that bad for him because I did see he was married to Diane Lane for a while.
Whoa.
Like, I know. Super bomb baby.
Way to go, dude. Way to go, Chris Lambert. Do we want to do like a ranking of these things, or is it literally just go from best to worst? Is it just a slide?
Let's do it. Let's rank. Okay. Oh, real quick. A couple more trivia on the source while we're doing just random trivia.
Yeah.
There was a guy who wrote a version of this script for Miramax of the Highlander source. He watched everything and he joined an official message board, HighlanderCommunity.com, and he researched what fans wanted in a sequel. He kept his identity secret as like an insider in the project, and he soon became super popular and respected on the board. And then he was kicked off the project, and he waited till the movie came out to reveal himself. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And maybe that movie would have been a lot better, I guess, than the one that we actually got.
Yep.
Yeah.
If that guy had been a little bit more involved.
Yeah. I think that's really all I got.
Okay.
All right, let's rank them. Let's do that. Let's finish with the ranks.
Great. I think we can agree at number 1, the original.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Do you want to you do yours and I'll do mine?
Great, that sounds good. I think mine's going to be pretty close to just in order. So I think the first one's the best one. Like I said, Highlander 2, the longer we've been away from it, I think the more fun it was. And I think Sean Connery brings a lot of zany madness to these things. So I think it's just 1, 2. 3 and 4 were kind of a wash for me. I thought Kane was a good bad guy in number 3. And I thought 4 had some good storytelling that it kind of squandered at the end. If it had stuck the ending, I think I would have liked it more than 3. But I'm going to push on 3 and 4. And then this one, the source, was the worst one by a pretty wide margin for me. It really jumped the shark.
Yeah, there was no redeeming in the string of these movies. Like it never. Yeah. Some franchises like they have some bright spots at the end, or they like a Fast and the Furious, how they get better and better. Not here. Yeah. I agree. Yep. It's in order 1 through 5.
Yeah.
As far as quality, I'd go Endgame 4, and then I'd put all the comics that I read, the TV show. I'd put that spin-off TV show. I'd put just anything. Like I'd put an interview with Adrian Paul on the swordexperience.com ahead of the source.
Just any Highlander content.
Anything. Adrian Paul's like Instagram account, I would put
just an old kilt that you found at Goodwill.
What? Yeah, what? Okay, what would you what Scottish? Oh God, I don't even know. What would you rank ahead of Highlander the Source? There's a question. All right,
we'll throw that on the survey for all you monsters listening out there. But yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have anything else before we close the book? Is that it? Are we done? Do we want to talk anything else about it, or say anything else about it?
I mean, I feel like we've hit everything. I will say I was a little disappointed that the villain in this one their name didn't
I
start with a K.
know.
You
I
know, they picked
know.
the theme and then they, like why walk away?
They fucked up.
They fucked up. They fucked up. But no, I feel like we've hit all the spots I wanted to hit. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about with these things?
Nope, that's it. We'll of course go over the survey for the source next week, so there'll be a little bit maybe extra wrap up. We've had a week to think about it and maybe talk a little bit more about it. Before we start our next series for Spooky month of October, we're gonna watch I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it's a couple sequels.
I still know what you did last summer. And what's the third one? Because I love the naming.
Always still probably know what you did that one summer.
That one summer, a couple summers ago. Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Pretty excited for those. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's it. That's Highlander, baby.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for listening, and make sure you take the survey. It's in the show notes, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Moo.
Moo.